Hello, everybody, and welcome to this awesome webinar today. Andrea here, I'm your host, and together with Louis, we will be talking about the very best practices any author should know when it comes to editing their books and the layout of the book, and of course, printing. So, super important topics for today. I hope you're ready. And as you're going through this, as we are going through this, I put myself in a new author's position, and I selected the questions I feel as a new author you need to have access to and you need to know the answers for. So I'm going to start with those in my conversation with Louis. And as we move forward, if you have any questions, feel free to put them, to list them in the chat area or in the Q&A area, and we'll make sure to answer them. Now, Louis is our COO. She's been working with Blackheart Books authors for a very long time, and she's the absolute best resource that we can tap into, especially when it comes to these topics. Now, I myself as an author, although I've done self-publishing, I've done publishing with the amazing publisher who is Blackheart Books, and I could still not figure out all the details by myself. So I'm really happy Louis is here, and you should be too. So Louis, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today about these very important topics. And I hope you're ready for the for this really long list of questions that I'm going to ask you today.
My pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So guys, before we get started, let's just make sure that you can hear us good and you can see us. Please just type in the chat area, just say hello and where you're from so that we know whom we're talking to and who we have here. And of course, for the ones watching this on the recording, you don't have to do that. But it's all good. You know when you know where to find us. So hello, we have Sherry from Dallas with us. We have Cassie from Denver. We have a few of our authors from Australia and the Philippines also with us. So this is not only a full house, but it's also a house from all over the world. So that's absolutely great. Great to have you here. It's amazing how this technology works, right?
No, right? It's people from all over the world at this time.
Yes, absolutely. And we can ask the ones from Australia, how is life tomorrow, right? For some of us, it's already tomorrow. So I think we can be assured that tomorrow is going to be a great day.
I kind of want to ask them, how are they still up at this time of the day in Australia?
Yeah, this is also a question. And well, first of all, congratulations, guys, for spending your time and choosing to invest this time in your book. This means that you're really you're invested in this and you want to make it happen. So without any further ado, Louis, let's get started, and we'll talk about this in three main categories. Of course, we'll do editing first, and then layout and printing. So about editing. Now, as an author, as authors, we know how writing the book works, right? And I myself have gone through this where I felt that when I'm done writing the book, it's over. Mm-hmm. And then I realized it's not over. There's a whole new set of things that are supposed to happen once the manuscript is done. So tell us, first of all, what does editing a book actually mean? So is it something that us as authors do during the writing of the manuscript, or it's something that somebody else needs to do for us? So let's go with the basics. What does editing mean?
Okay, now if you look that up on the internet, you're going to see a lot of definitions when it comes to editing. So there will be definitions that cover copy editing, for example. There's also content editing, and then you would also see proofreading as part of the definition for that. So really, there are three categories to that. Now, the first thing that I'd like everybody to understand is copy editing. Copy editing is very simple. It's really, you have a copy, so the text that somebody writes or the manuscript, and then what the editor does is reviews that, looks it over, checks it for grammatical errors, the structure of the sentences, punctuation, capitalization, and then even the accuracy of let's say the accuracy of the spelling of names. That's also part of your copy editing. Now, copy editing still has certain levels. You have your basic editing, and then you have what they say is a deeper level of edit. Now, when it's just basic editing, then that means this usually happens when the manuscript is well written, and all that the editor needs to do is really just clean it up. That means making sure that capitalization is great, punctuation is great, and spelling is correct, and your simple grammar errors are corrected. However, there are certain manuscripts that when an editor reads it, they notice that there needs to be changes in the structure of the sentences, the flow of the ideas. Now that becomes a higher level of edit or a deeper level of editing. So your copy editing, therefore, is also done in certain levels. Now there's still content editing. Now, what is that? That means that when the editor has to go and rewrite some parts of the manuscript, because they're gonna need to either add content to it or remove content from it, that it becomes content editing. Now, I mentioned the third definition, which is proofreading. You're probably wondering, is it proofreading, the editing part as well? Now, proofreading, really, technically, if you have to go and look at the definition, that is when you go and check the laid out part of the book. So it's not the manuscript anymore, but that means that it's been designed by the graphic artist, and it's the final level of editing that a book goes through. That means the book has finally been laid out, and the proofreader, all he or she needs to do is really just check the cosmetics of the book, how it looks. That means because it's already been fully edited, that it should be a quick review. It's not a thorough check on the content of the book.
Okay, got it. So this means that an author would actually need both an editor who would do, depending on the quality of the manuscript, either copy editing or structural editing, so something more in depth. And once the layout is done, and we'll discuss about the layout a little bit later, somebody would be proofreading the whole thing, right? So one more time, because I noticed that too. What happens when you put a manuscript into layout is certain sentences kind of tend to hang somewhere. The chapter needs to end in a proper way and needs to start in a proper way as well. So the proofreader would probably just make sure that the aesthetic of it is great. So this happens after the layout is done, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Would it be the same person, like can the editor do the proofreading as well, or would an author look for somebody else to do the proofreader? The proofreading.
The funny thing is, because we work with a lot of editors, that we've asked them if they could also proofread the laid out book, and most of them, what they say is they would rather that another person does that, because they've gone through the whole copy, and when they have to do the proofreading at the end, because they've read it, that it's not fresh anymore, that they may not actually catch the little things that a fresh proofreader would see.
I got it. Thank you. So next question is super important. We understood what editing is and the type of editing we would be looking for. Where in the world do we find the best editor for what we need? Or where do we find editors in the first place? Like, where do they hang out?
Where do they hang out? over the internet. So you know how you mentioned earlier that there are so many things that you can do because of the power of the internet now. Well, you can also look for people to hire over the internet. I mean, your virtual assistants, your designers, you can actually find them over the internet. But how do you know that these are good people to edit your book? Well, that's where good research comes in. So it's as simple as looking for editors for hire, freelance editors. And when you find them, then you have to make sure that you're also smart about the way that you look for the right people. That means you read whatever it is that they have there. Most editors right now, they have their own websites. So, and you would also see that there are testimonials for these people. So it's also very important that you check the feedback that you see on the website. Now, of course, because it's the editor's website, that you know that they pick the testimonials that they would place there. But if you ask around, uh, let's say it's on Fiverr, because you can also find editors on Fiverr, and they have
Mm-hmm.
the link to their own websites. You would also see actual testimonials for people on Fiverr. So, and you can trust the testimonials that you see there. People rank the editors, people give feedback. So feedback is very important. So do the
Mm-hmm.
research right, and you will end up with a good relationship with the editor. And I always suggest, when you're looking for somebody, before you even go and hire them, it's like an interview process. Talk to them, vet them, so that you know that you're finding a perfect match for your book.
Mm. Got it. So now this is important. We don't just go on a website and pick an editor up, but we can actually talk to them, and think it would be a good idea for them to, or for us to test whether they're good in their field. They're good in, not in their field generally speaking, but also that they have done work on similar books with
Yeah,
our book, right? Because it doesn't help me if he's an editor of,
a
I don't know,
cookbook.
of a cookbook if I'm doing nonfiction, right?
Yes. So usually, Andrea, you would see
Mm,
that you would see what kind of genre they're experts
mm-hmm.
on. So there are people, for example, who specialize in cookbooks, and then
Yeah.
there are people who specialize in business books. So you
Mm-hmm.
can check that, and in their profile, you can also see that. Now, I mentioned earlier that you need to go and communicate with them. It's a way of
Mm-hmm.
you assessing them, getting to know them.
Yeah.
You would also be able to see if this is a good editor. Let's say the person replies an email. Just looking at the way that they respond to you, if the way that they phrase their email is well done, then you would know that this is somebody who would do a good job with your book. If you can see that the
Yeah.
email, for example, is they're an email, they're messy on email, then why would you go and have your book, your manuscript edited by this person?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So there you go. This is their efficiency and pro efficiency knocking at the door even before you get to meet them.
Hardly,
So
yes.
this is really interesting. Yeah. So I guess that this is how, just by talking with them and doing research and asking for, do editors have portfolios? Like, could you ask for them to give you to show you samples of their work?
Yes, at Blackheart Books, when we qualify them, so we do the same thing. We look
Mm-hmm.
for them over the internet, because we're continuously looking for people that we could hire as our editors. Now,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's you can ask them to send you samples of the work that they've already edited. They would even send you the form in Word, where you would see their actual edits on the manuscript. So yes,
Mm-hmm.
you can request for that, so that you can also evaluate if they're good at what they do.
Good. So I'm liking this approach. It's like when you get an editor, it's almost like you're hiring somebody
Yes. Yeah,
to, yeah, it's not
you
you
really are.
shopping out of an online shop, but you're really hiring somebody to do some work for you. So I really like this approach. Um, Louis, how long should it take for an editor to do a thorough editing on the book?
Mhm. Okay. Now the length part that's a bit tricky because
Mm.
it really depends on the actual length of your own manuscript. So usually what happens is you if you had to go and have them edit your book, and then let's say you're looking at a timeline, it's
Mm-hmm.
always best that you send them the manuscript, and then they themselves will tell you how long it's going to go and take them to get it done. But if you're looking at a standard book, now at Blackbird Books, our standard book is at 112 pages. That would
Mm-hmm.
take from 5 to 14 business days to get done. Now, why
Mm-hmm.
does it vary? Why can it be, let's say if it's just 112 pages, why can't you just say 5 days?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that it's also dependent on how well written the manuscript is. So, they your editors will also assess how long it would take them to edit your book depending on how well it's written.
Mm-hmm.
If they see a lot of errors just by going through the manuscript, then they will tell you that it will take them 14 days to get it done. But if it's
Yeah.
very well written and they just have to and make sure that they clean it up and they're only looking at a basic edit, that should be
Mm-hmm.
done in 5 days.
Okay, I got it. Thank you. So I feel we're really good with this information now. Of course, we won't go into the details of pricing simply because these vary so very much. So I think ideally you would be, again, you're hiring this editor, right? So you don't have to hire the first person you see. Just make a selection, do 3 to 5 interviews, see which one fits best, from all perspectives, including the financial one. So I'm guessing that, now you can confirm with me, Louis, but I'm guessing that an editor will be able to tell me how much it costs me, how much his work
Yes.
costs, only after he sees and assesses the manuscript, right? Okay. And
Yes.
and
Now
would
you
he?
mentioned
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
uh, sorry to interrupt. You mentioned about uh, we're not going to go and look at pricing because it does vary, and again it
Mm-hmm.
depends on how well written the book is. So usually for pricing, it's always best to show them and they tell you themselves what how much they feel would be the right price to edit the
Mm-hmm.
book. And that also includes, so that includes the price and also how long they're going to go and do it. Now, I like how you mentioned that, you don't, when you find an editor and you look at the profile, feedback is good and you think, okay, this is it. Like you
Yeah.
said earlier, talk to 3 to 4 people and then
Mm-hmm.
assess the way that they communicate with you, and that also includes them evaluating your manuscript to tell you how much it would cost and how long it would take them. And you would see, like, if somebody's pricing, for example, is too far off compared to the other three, then that gives you an idea on what the price range should be for your book. That also
Mm-hmm.
includes the timeline. If one person is too far off when it comes to the timeline that they provide, then it's probably an inexperienced editor that that you're reviewing.
Yeah, that's great. And so, what the expectation is, once they see the manuscript, they will give an author an estimated a price, right? And that price would basically include everything, right?
Yes.
And it's custom that they just give you the full thing and not something like, well, I'm charging, I don't know how much per word or per day worked or anything like that. They would just give like the full price, right?
Yes. They would give you the full price because they've seen
Mm-hmm.
the whole manuscript. But you will also find people who charge by the hour or by
Yeah.
the page. But really, for me, the person has to go and assess the whole manuscript, because then again, if it's per page and they've never really seen your manuscript,
Yeah.
then I'd feel that the pricing would be unfair.
Mm-hmm. So this is again, we could say this is again a sign of inexperience from an editor who says, "Well, I'm going to edit anything, and it's this much amount per day or per hour," because they don't know it, and indeed it is unfair to the one who has a really, really great manuscript and doesn't need
Yes,
all the um,
the
all
deeper.
the attention that, yeah, exactly, that somebody else would have. So
Yes.
great points. And this is how Guys, keep this in mind, and when you're interviewing your editors, just have all these points, and I feel you have the tools to even recognize who's experienced and who's not experienced. So do use this, and let us know if you have any questions on the topic. I'll be checking the chat area right now, and if we don't have any questions on editing, which I see we don't, we will move into the nope, no questions here either. We'll move into the layout part of it. Layout is super interesting, and I myself as an author, I never felt layout ever even existed
Mhm.
when in my idea of how the book will go from a manuscript to the actual printer. Louis, tell us a bit. I was so excited when I heard that layout is part of part of this whole process, and that I would be asked about how that would go. So tell us first of all, what is a book layout?
Mhm. So the layout part of the process is when a graphic designer, so now you're working with a graphic designer, how the
Mm-hmm.
graphic designer visually arranges the content of your book. So you know how you have your different pages there. You'd have a dedication page, you'd have an
Mm-hmm.
acknowledgement page, or your table of contents, for example, and then the chapters. That
Yeah.
has to be visually designed so that it also looks appealing to the reader. So most of us, we look at a book, and then it could be, I have a regular pocket book here. Now, if you look at this, for example, it's the the arrangement is purely the way that the paragraphs are laid out. So
Yeah.
this is typically what you would see in a bookstore. But
Mm-hmm.
we also believe that when you write a book, especially because most of our authors are going to be writing business books, since they're going to be
Mm-hmm.
using it as a marketing tool, right? It needs to
Yeah.
be aesthetically appealing to the reader as well, which is
Mm-hmm.
why we recommend that you add visuals in the book, images, for example, and that's part of the layout. So when you the typical books that we publish, Andy, is I have an example here. So if you look at this,
Mm-hmm.
for example, see, it has, look at that in the
It
front panel.
already has a photo.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it includes the author of the photo of the author, and then it also includes your images in the before the chapter starts. So
Mm-hmm.
a great layout artist would be able to identify what appropriate images to put in your book. It's not like they're just
Mm-hmm.
going to go and grab any picture in on the internet to place there. Your graphic artists actually look at the chapters, look at the chapter titles, even read part of the content for them to be able to choose what images to use. Now, you as an author, you can also decide on what images to use. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you want to make sure that there are images there, then you can yourself look for images that you feel resonate with you and may resonate with your target population, and those
Mm-hmm.
are the ones that you choose. So your layout, again, is the visual arrangement of the content, to the words, including any images that you might want to use in your book.
Got it. Now, for all the authors here, this layout also means that you get to decide the way that the pages are numbered, the way that the chapters are being written, if there's any, I don't know, any particular design that goes into that. So when you think about layout, think about everything, how the book looks like on the inside. It's just not, pure text. There's images. There's a special way in which the quotes are being outlined, and so on and so forth. And especially for the authors of business books, the ones who will use a book as a marketing tool, just like Louis said, think about this. When you're introducing yourself as the author of the book called so and so, or when you gift your book to somebody, that somebody will immediately open it and just browse through it a little bit, right? So you want to make a good designer will make it super appealing for them when they just do like this, and browses through it, and they'll be able to see images, they'll be able to see standout quotes. They'll be even, impressed with simply the layout of the book. So number one, they're super impressed because they're meeting an author. That's very, very important. And number two, they're also impressed with the quality of your book. So this is also something you need to have in mind. There is a question that came up, Louis, because we spoke about images, and that question was, does the price go up when images are added? Now, I'm thinking this is a question about price can go up in two ways, right? It depends on what you're talking about when you say price. Yes, you'll have to pay for the images that get in the book. So this means
Yes.
even a temporary Shutterstock or iStock or any sort of stock images supplier. Number two, if they're black and white, Louis, does the quotation from the printer change from having images to not having images if they're black and white?
Yes, it does, because the when you print, so our books, they're called picture books because we put the images there. Well, you have
Yeah.
books that are purely text. Now, when you print a book that is purely text, that's going to be more affordable than a picture book. So yes, the images does the price. Now, your images, the way that we make our books more appealing is we make sure that the images are properly spaced out in the book. Now, if you're thinking, well, if it's going to go and affect the price of my book, then I don't want pictures there. But remember that your book represents, it's your calling card. You want to make sure that it's visually appealing. So if you don't want pictures on every chapter, for example, you can remove them so you can minimize the number of images that you would go and add there. But I would definitely recommend making sure that there are images there, because that just makes it more appealing, more eye-catching than other books.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why we're using it. This book will generate new clients for you, and those new clients, for sure, they will make up and then some for the amount that you pay to get those images included. So I would guess, Louis, by the way you were explaining this, that price for printing does go up proportionally with the number of, not only that images exist, but also with the number. If we have more images, then the price will go higher than compared to if we have some but less images, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Well, guys, do keep in mind, and we'll talk more about this in printing, that if you get a larger number of books, then the variation of the price won't be that much, and you can actually get your books for quite of an affordable price. Again, if you do it in bulk, and we'll talk more about it in the printing questions. So Louis, now I'm understanding that this layout thing, this is not optional. Like, somebody has to do it. If my book gets to print, it's not optional for me to get a designer to do the layout, and it's a graphic designer who does it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are the top 3 things that an author needs to address in an interview with a graphic designer? So I'm guessing that the same process that we use to find an editor is the one we use to find a graphic designer to do the layout for the book. What are the top 3 things that we should be looking at or asking or having in mind when we talk to a graphic designer?
Well, it's the same thing as like you said, it's the same thing as with the with the editor. You ask them about you interview them. You ask them about their experience, how long they've been designing layouts, for example, and then you can ask portfolio. They'd be happy to send you one or show you one. Most of them, when they have websites, you'd actually see the samples of the books that they made. So whether it's a book cover that you want to see, or it's the book, the interior of the book itself, they'd have samples. Yeah. Another good place to check, Andy, is I'm going to share this with everybody who's here. They can go to 99designs.com, and then there are several beautiful layout designers that you can find there, and then
Mm-hmm.
they give you, you can see the kind of books that they've already designed. Pricing
Mm-hmm.
is also displayed there. You can have a conversation with them to assess them a little bit more, or you can run a contest in 99 Designs. Now we're
Mm-hmm.
not going to go and spend time discussing how they do that, but it's one of the, I'd say that it's a gem. It's a good place to look for designers, and you also see um, from their profiles how much work they've done and how experienced
Mm-hmm.
they are. So it's a good place
Mm-hmm.
to look for a layout designer.
Awesome. So layout designers hang out in 99designs.com. And I do agree, guys, it's a great place to go and fish for them or look for them and to get them on an interview or just to get a contest going for your book. And what's nice about 99 Designs is you yourself establish the price. So you can say, I have, this is the budget I have. It's, I don't know, $500 or $1,000 or 2,000 or whatever, and based on that budget, then they will be able to it's going to go on a contest, and the designers um, who design at that in that price point will go ahead and battle for your attention.
Yeah.
So for the ones who didn't get it, it's 99designs.com. So 99designs plural.com, and Shirley here will help me and we'll put this in the chat area. And it's not a design company, it's a website, it's a pool of designers. They have, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of designers being attracted, being pulled in there, and you have access to all of them. So it's a really nice place to go and look for designers. Just like most probably Fiverr.com is a very good place to look for editors.
Yes. There you can also find some designers on Fiverr, but I would
Hmm.
recommend 99 Designs for
Better.
yeah, it's a better place to look for
Hmm.
designers.
For designers. That's great. And when we're in the, so say the designer has given us the layout back,
Mhm.
right? Is it, how does this go? And the reason why I'm asking this is, if I'm an unexperienced author, then I may think that this is just one go around, that I give the manuscript and I give the instructions and they give me the layout, and then whether I like it or not, it's, I have to keep it and that's it.
Mhm.
So first of all, are there revisions included in the, say, transactional deal that we have with the layout designer? That's number one. And number two, how do we know when we get the first manuscript from them, how do we know they've done a good job? Like,
Mhm.
what's the best indication of that?
Okay. Now, when it comes to how many revisions, for example, are you entitled to as an author? Now, that
Mm-hmm.
really depends on your arrangement with the designer. They will.
Mm-hmm.
That is part of the discussion when you're looking for the right designer. But most of the time, when you hire a designer, usually you come up with you have a discussion with them on your vision for the book, and
Mm-hmm.
they will translate your vision into uh, a sample design for you. It could be an initial layout, for example, just for you to see what the flow would be, what the concept would be for the design. It wouldn't be designing the whole book or fully laying out the whole book. It could just be parts of the book, so you
Mm-hmm.
have an idea of what it would look like. And when that resonates with you, then that's when you give the go signal for them to get the whole book done.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you so much. And guys, if you have additional questions about layout, this is the perfect time to ask them. One more thing that I'd like to suggest, even before you get started, like if you have absolutely no idea of of your vision for the book, because you may not, and if
True.
especially if you've decided that you need this book for business purposes,
Mhm.
most probably you never thought of writing the book in the first place, and now in the marketing expectation of it, you've decided to write this book. So if you have absolutely no idea of how a book would be laid out, my advice is for you to look at the books that you enjoy, the books that you have in your book in your library, or just go to a bookstore and browse through them and pay attention to the interior design, and then just go from there. Pick some that you like, and at least you would have a starting point when you discuss this with your designer.
Yeah. And then,
So this is
and
just an additional tip for that.
Andy, when you talked about them looking for something that they like, they can
Mm-hmm,
share that they can tell the designer that, this is the kind of layout for me. This is I've seen this book and I feel that it's
mm-hmm,
what I want to go and capture. And
mm-hmm.
at least your designer has an idea of what you want. So that could also be a good way of communicating to them your vision. If you can't
Yes.
share it, or if you can't say it in words, then show them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one more thing that this just came to me, because as any design aspect, this is any creative aspect, this is very, very subjective, right? So would a designer just go and do the whole book, or would he give you like a sample chapter that you would approve before they would move forward and work with the whole thing?
That is standard practice. They
Mm,
have to be able to show you a sample first. So it's just an initial layout. It's not the
yeah.
full book. It's probably the initial, let's say your dedication acknowledgement page, table of contents, and then probably chapters 1 and 2. It could even be just from
Hmm.
chapter 1, but it
Yeah.
shows you how the feel of the book would be when it comes to the design, the concept.
Hmm.
You can see it, and then when you approve that, that's when you go and proceed to the full layout.
Got it. So this is really valuable information, guys. If you don't accept anything else, and so you should be approving a layout sample of your own book, not of somebody else's book, of your own book. Just have them do this sample. If they're not offering it already, that's a sign you may be dealing with an unexperienced designer. And that's it. So keep this in mind. And I already feel that you're better prepared to handle this journey already. Now, I'm constantly looking at the chat area. It looks like, Louis, this layout side of things got really, really clear for everybody, which is great. So, and we're right on time, so we can move into the, no, not yet. We do have a question, and that is, the question is, the sample that they do, this would be part of the fee, right? They wouldn't be charging extra money for the sample.
No, it shouldn't. It should be a package that should be part of the
Mhm.
deal.
Okay, got it. That's great. Thank you so much, Louis. Now, guys, I hope you're ready. We're moving into the printing aspect of it. Now, of course, any author knows that it may be fuzzy, the editing and the layout phase, but we all know that after the manuscript is done, now we know there's editing and there's layout, and after layout, there's proofreading. And once everything is done, then this is the time to go with your book to print. So, Louis, be, even before that, let's a part of the transition.
Mhm.
We're gonna need the book in a variety of formats, like from PDF to Kindle version of the book to whose job is to render all of these formats, including a print ready format, which is different from the PDF version, and it is very different from the Kindle version of the book. Who's doing the rendering? Is it the one who lays out the book, or it's a different person?
That depends, because sometimes you'd find a designer who can do
Mm-hmm.
the PDF version and
Yeah.
also the Kindle version. But in if you go to 99 Designs, sometimes you would see designers whose specialty is only the Kindle version. So that now
Mm.
that wouldn't be part of the full layout of the book when it comes to the pricing. That would have
Yeah.
to be a different price set.
I get it. I get it. Okay. Well, this is good to know. So if the designer who's doing the layout, if he has no idea how to render them, what's the format in which they would give us? Would they give us access to the original files and they would put it in a PDF, and the original
Mhm.
files would be, I don't know, in InDesign or whatever they work with, and then we would have to find somebody else
Who can,
who can put them in all of these formats?
yes. Yep.
Okay, I got it. Now, for everybody here on the call, and you're all authors wanting to use this book as a marketing tool for yourself, if there are here other types of authors as well, well, I do think that this particular information serves everybody. You will want, for sure, you will want your book listed on Amazon. So do know from the beginning that you need somebody, either the one who's doing the layout or somebody else. You need somebody who can create the Kindle version of your book. And then also consider that you may want to give away either a chapter, two chapters, a brief summary of the book. You may want to give this away on your website as a way of getting more leads in your database. So if you want to do this, just be prepared so you know what you ask for. Ideally, you just get all the formats done with and then have your book printed and you're good to go, and you're good to continuously use it as a tool for generating new leads for you. So, and of course, you can always create variations of it, right? But do make sure that the layout designer gives you access to the raw file as well. The raw file would be something that most probably you with your computer, if you're not a designer and you don't work with InDesign or other programs that they use, you wouldn't be able to open it. But still keep it, because there is a designer out there who will be able to use it and who will need access to it if you want different versions of your book being done.
And Andy, what they
Yeah.
could also do is, if they want to keep on working with a, if they don't want to go and look for another designer to do it, then what they can do is, when they're interviewing the designer, they can ask,
Yes.
can you also do the PDF version or the Kindle version of the book?
Yeah. And if not, like if you're so in love with the designer and the sample that they sent you and they cannot do anything else, I'm pretty sure on Fiverr.com you'll be able to find somebody who will just do the transition of it for not too much money. So I'm pretty sure this is something affordable. So do have that in mind. Like, don't discount a good designer. Layout is super important, and having different formats of your book is also important. But it's not something that somebody on Fiverr couldn't uh,
Yes.
couldn't um, couldn't find it. Louis, so now we're going to print, right? So what are the top things an author needs to know before they start searching for a printer? Because typically, you would think that you just go to Google and say, printer, and then my area, and then that would be it. So what are the most important things that I need to know before I actually go and Google printers in the area?
Well, I would still go back to the same things that we established when we were looking for the editor and the graphic,
Mm-hmm.
the designer. I
Yeah.
Research again is key here when you're looking for the right printer. Now, experience, a number of years that they've been in the business. I think that is key when you want to go and make
Mm-hmm.
sure that your book comes out printed well. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're saying like the top things that you would have to go and look at, really, for me, top number one is experience, and you can
Yeah.
see that when in their their portfolio, for example, or if the printer has a website. Once you've Googled it, of course, if they have a website, they will show you how many years they've been in the business, and that speaks for itself. A business wouldn't survive that long if they're not great, they're not good at what they do. So for me, that is really the key thing: experience, how long they've been in the business.
This is great information, Louis. Is it worth considering, how should I put this? Now, for everybody here, the good news is if you're seeing this video, then you actually have access to our list of trusted printers. So you can, we've done the research for you. You just need to go and download the list and choose one that is close to your location. When it comes to pricing, or not the, when it comes to pricing, this typically does not include shipping, right, from delivery from the printer to your home. So you may want to find a printer where it's easier for you to go and pick them up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This would be the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
It's also a great experience for an author to go and pick up their own books. I'm telling you out of out of experience. So that day is a day you will remember. Mm-hmm. So if possible, go and pick them up yourself. So choose out of the trusted printers that we recommend, choose the one that is for you. And then if you can go and pick them up, that's great. If not, know that the delivery, the shipping of the books, that's not included in the price per book that they will give you. So do know this. And what is the other thing that I wanted to mention? I forgot. Oh, yeah. So go ahead.
I like that you said that, if that could be distance from where you like the books delivered and the printer. Is that a big deal? It's not for a lot of people because you can just ask for them to deliver your books. But now, knowing where the printer is, knowing where to find them, is that important? Yes, it is, because when you're still looking for a printer, I would recommend that you go and visit the site, talk to the people there. Usually they would go and assign an account manager for you. If you want to go and check them out, for example, there would be a representative who would talk to you about how they do business, even give you the quote for the number of books that you would need. But then because you have a contact there and you can visit the site, then it also gives you confidence that this is the printer where you want to go and get your books done if you visit the site.
And just like we spoke about getting samples from editors and from designers, you would request for samples, for sample books from this printing house as well. And this again is very important because you get to, sometimes it's difficult anyway to explain to a creative somebody, what do you want and how do you like things. So it's, and I think everybody agrees with me. It's really hard to say, I like it, why do I like it? So it's easier when they give you 10 or 20 different types of books and catalogs that they've printed, and you can feel the paper and you can see how the words get to be, the words look like on regular paper, on glossy paper, on you get to see the photos. Maybe you choose a combination of regular paper with glossy paper where you have the photos on. So these are all really, really important aspects. And then you'll be able to say, well, I want this type of paper, or I want this type of binding. Binding is another issue. We're gonna talk about that next, Louis. Before we go, though, before we go to this, I remembered what I wanted to say when it comes to books and asking for a quotation. Of course, quotation varies, so
yes,
make sure that you ask for how much does it cost you to print 100 books, 500 books, 1,000 books, 2,000 books, just so you get to see on the long run, when your business is going when your book proves to be the awesome marketing material that you hope to be, so that you know in advance how to plan for this type of expenditure, and you also know what's the lowest price possible that you can pay for your book. Now, if you ever wonder what in the world are you going to do with 2,000 books in your garage, I do want to tell you that there are printers who offer to keep your books with them until you need them, right? So, Louis, how does that work?
Now that when you decide to go and have the printer keep the books, there is of course a corresponding storage fee for that.
Yeah.
The the price again varies. That's why it's always important to look at several printers. If you're considering if distance is the most important thing to you, then check out the ones within the radius of your residence and meet them, talk to them, check out pricing, ask for, when you ask for a quotation, you know how you mentioned that you can request for samples. When they give you the samples, one thing that I would also recommend, if if for the if for the other people that you would look at is you'd want to go and ask for samples, like you said. You know how in editing they can give you copies, and in the design world they can also give you portfolios. You know, printers would send you books for free just so you would see the kind of work that they do. And you can look at the way that the cover is done. You can look at the thickness of the paper, because even thickness of the paper, that matters. If your book has a lot of images, your paper has to be slightly thicker. Now, who would be the best person to recommend what kind of paper to use, whether to have it, to use glossy paper or it's matte? You know, your printer would also be able to advise you. If they see, if they, what we do, Andrea, in black card books, sometimes we have authors who want their books colored. They want it in black and white. We actually show, because we recognize that printers are experts when it comes to printing, we show them the file and ask them, what would be the right paper to use for this? So I remember that when we did a colored picture book with the famous cookbook, the only one that was done by Black Card Books, the printer recommended the right kind of paper for it, because it was colored, and then there were a lot of reds that were used in the images, that he really specified a certain kind of paper, a certain kind of thickness for it. Now, you can tell that your printers they want a good relationship with you when they recommend things to you, because they're letting you know that they're the expert. But you can also look at types of paper. Your printers will also give you types of paper so that you can compare and you can decide what you want to look at. We've had very demanding authors who don't like white paper. They want the dirty looking kind of white. Especially, I remember there was one that he wanted a book that looked as if it had, according to him, aged well. So he didn't want pure white paper. So, you know, there are little quirks that sometimes authors want, and your printers will be able to guide you if that's the right kind of paper. I remember when the author asked for that, and the printer said, if you use that, your black and white images would look very murky, dirty looking. So the printer convinced the author to use regular white for the paper.
Got it. So your printer is actually, and I'm really happy you brought this up, Shirley. And this is something that I think every author needs to understand, because it's not a typical writer environment. And I'll tell you what this is. People say, and it's common knowledge, that writers are introverts who always work by themselves, and they're very attached to their work, and they don't want too many people meddling with their creation, right? Well, what I want to encourage you to do, and I'm pretty sure that none of you listening to this call are that type, but from time to time, you'll discover yourselves falling in that category. And this comes with you authoring a book. So I want you to know, number one, it's normal. Number two, whenever it feels like you're going in that area where, oh, my book is my baby and I'm super attached to it and things, remember, your book is your marketing tool. You're doing it because it will serve you. It will serve your purpose of building a platform, of building a following, of changing people's lives from all of these perspectives. So both your editor, your proofreader, your designer, your printer, they are all your partners in this. So don't regard them as transactionally, so to say. Don't regard them as service providers that, their service starts and then it stops here and that's it. Try to build a relationship with them, and the more they understand you and who you are and where you're coming from, the easier it's going to be for them to wholeheartedly help you and to invest themselves and their creativity in your success. So that's why, make friends with your editor, make friends with your layout designer, make friends with your printer. You never know how many copies of your book you're going to need to print. So ask as many questions as you want to. Don't think that they are there to take your money and deliver crap services necessarily, right? It doesn't have to be the case. They are your partners. So take advantage of all the things that they offer. Like, for instance, a printer would assign an account manager to you. Make friends with that account manager. Like, who better to guide you and to explain to you and to help you choose the best type of a book format that you can have. And again, they're not there to take your money. They're there to help you because the name of their printing house, it's going to be on your book.
Yes.
So they don't want this. They don't want a crappy result. They want an awesome result. So they are really there to help you out. Um, we are 2 minutes away, Louis. I never thought we would be over the time, but I have one very, very important question to ask about printing.
Mhm.
How long does it typically take for a book to be printed?
You know, the some printers would take. So I'll give you the average. The
Mm,
quickest that they would be able to do it is 2 weeks, 4 weeks.
mhm, mhm,
We've had some that would get it done in would would say, well, we'll get it done for you in 7 days, but I worry about when they can print it that quick, because you spoke about binding. The glue needs to dry. So if the
uh-huh.
glue doesn't dry, if you don't give it enough time to dry, when you put in the cover, uh, and after a few months, when you open the book, it tends to crack in the middle when it doesn't dry well. So for me, if the printer tells you that they can get it done in 5 days, I'd worry about the binding. But if the printer says they can get it done in 2 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks, then I'd say, okay, that sounds good, because you're
Okay.
making sure that the process is done right, and that the glue, the binding, you're not in trouble when the book dries.
Okay. So, and you brought binding up. So let's talk just for a few seconds about that, because there are like so many variations of binding that you could do. For say our standard book, which is 112 pages, and it may have a variety of paper. Mine is glossy, but somebody else can be regular paper. What type of binding do we recommend?
Well, when it comes to the stitching, the I I just say the regular binding that you would
Mm-hmm.
use for a book, especially because
Yeah.
it's just 112 pages.
Yeah.
So for me, that
Mm-hmm.
works.
Okay, but again, I guess the your account manager would be able to advise you on the binding as well, right? Because if the book is 500 pages or
Yes.
250 pages, then maybe something else, some other type of stitching, some other type of glue would work, right?
Yes. So
Okay.
yeah, the thicker it is, they will tell you that it would need something special, whether it's a saddle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they can, they're the ones that you can count on to advise you on what kind of stitching would be best. But
Got it. That's great.
for us, for the 112 pages, it's saddles.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we usually recommend.
That's good. That's really good. Okay, guys, so you got your best practices in editing, layout, and printing today. I want to thank Louis for taking the time to be with us and to enlighten us. And we found so many new things that an author typically never thinks about when it's about writing the book. Um, when we talk about publishing the book. Sorry. So thank you again, Louis, for being with us today, and thank you guys for spending your very valuable time with us, having your questions answered. For whomever is looking at this on the recording, know that coaching on any aspect of publishing your book is always available. Just email coach@blackheartbooks.com and we'll get your questions answered. My name is Andrea. I'm the host of this webinar today, and it's been great to be able to ask Louis so many amazing questions. And if need be, and if you request her to be again live in our webinars, I will definitely make sure that that
Oh,
she comes.
sure.
Have an amazing, amazing day today, and let us know if how your book is coming along. Tell us if you have any trouble with publishing. What are those problems? Remember, coach@blackheartbooks.com is the place where you have unlimited email coaching for anything that has to do with your book. So have a great day today. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.